Hey, Sens fans, welcome to a special series of the Senstennial. It is our listener series where we get to hear from you, our listeners. And first up, we have coming on the show, Devon. Devon, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you, fellas?
Not too shabby. Yeah.
Electric.
Electric. All right. Matt, why don't you lead us off here and give Devon the business?
Yeah, yeah. So Dev, obviously we wanted to hear from some of our listeners and longtime Sens fans, and it seemed like you wanted to maybe speak to the way we should be viewing management and their management style. Why don't you take it away? Tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, well, I think, once hearing that there was availability to come on the podcast, I kind of was looking at, the Travis Green hire in general. And all of your thoughts pretty much echo what mine were. In almost immediate disappointment. We thought we were getting, whispers of Craig Berube, and we're going after the big fish, and you get the little trout. And it's a little, we're kind of used to as Sens fans for that, like maybe since the Eric Brandstrom trade, here is the shiny toy. And we got a little bit of not what we wanted. And I think moving forward, we might need to kind of get used to that. Not in the sense of, if we're going with best in class and they want to get rid of that saying, and that's okay. Um, but I think it's kind of, we've been used to getting the big fish. We got Chikrin. We've made these big swings for Duchesne. We made big swing, all these big trades and all these big moves, and we thought we were taking the next step with those big swings. But we're gonna have to take maybe four little swings and not see that immediate response right away, because the previous way didn't really work. And just looking at kind of Steve Stais as a player and Travis Green as a player, they're kind of boring. Like Travis Green is no, this scrappy, almost played 1,000 games. Steve Stais is a steady Eddie, and that's how his management style has been. So looking at those two together, I look at the upcoming offseason, I think we're getting little trades, you know. We're kind of locked into our current roster a little bit. We have some flexibility with Chikrin, maybe. Josh Norris is the biggest question mark on the roster, to me, at least. But those kind of little trades, I think, even Boris Kachuk was a little bit of a tell. Fourth line
Yeah,
guy.
boring
And,
Kachuk. It kind of writes the joke writes itself.
yeah, extremely, extremely boring, but effective. And I think that might be the type of player they kind of target. But as a fan, that is a huge mind shift from what we're used to. We're used to, like, let's chase the name. Let's get to Brinkat, which no one saw coming,
Yeah.
but we got him. And it was this sticker shock, right? So I think, as a fan, I'm kind of not resigning myself to it, but I say, okay, this is a new management team. And just because we have the money, like Mike Landauer seems like he's doing well. Got lots of money, but just because he has the money doesn't mean spending the most money will be the best option. And I've come to terms with that as maybe not the disappointment, but um, we've had time to process the Travis Green hire, and I think I'm a bit more on board now. Um, but I think it's going to be adjusting that mindset moving forward, that we go, okay, like we might get a third line center this summer, and that might be all we kind of do. We'll see. Like, we don't really know, right? So I hope not. But I think it's kind of tempering those, lofty expectations, like, oh, we're gonna go get Saros, we're gonna go get this, 60-point center. Like, I don't think those kinds of things are gonna happen.
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So what's your, like, in your mind's eye, what's the small swing? Like, what is the not dream small swing, but what's the
Yeah.
reality small swing that you're
Yeah.
envisioning right now?
So for me, like, and Matt, you can speak to this. You're a Brandstrom truther to the end.
Yeah, both Matt's squared right now. Brandy bait.
Yeah. And it pains me to say this, but I think he's gone.
Get him off the.
I know. That's controversial. Chikrin, again, we don't know. To me, it seems like he's gone. And that's not a small move, but again, he's been here for what, year and a half, and doesn't seem keen to resign. So that's fine. If he doesn't want to go, that's cool. If he wants to stay, that's cool too. Goaltending's a gigantic mess. What they're going to do there, I don't think Korpisalo goes. If they buy him out, whatever, it's 1.8 for the next million years. But I'm looking at Josh Norris. If he's on LTIR until after the trade deadline or the playoffs, saying the word, but if that's the case, that frees up $7 million of cap space. Give him the season, let him rest up, get the proper training he needs for an extended period of time, and have someone come in on a 1 to 2 year basis and fill in for him like every other team does. I'm looking at Pinto maybe elevating to the second line full time. Maybe a Chandler Stevenson type center. A veteran that's been around for a bit of pedigree. There's the Chris Tanev types of the world. Dylan DeMello seems resigned to the Jets, so that's off the Sens wish list. But I think it's going to be tinkering, and it's not going to be, the Leafs are staring down the barrel of blowing it up, and I don't think the Sens are there. But I do think they are in position to make a bigger swing than we think, but nothing that's going to shake the foundation of the team. I expect maybe Joseph's in play. I don't love that move, but I think, there's bits of the third and fourth line that I like and some that I don't. Ridley Gregg can stay. If Pinto moves up to the second line, that's cool with me. Kastelik, I'm okay to move on with. Kelly was nice last year as a former non-Kelly fan. That was nice to see. But more of those types, I think they're just going to go for those Boris Kachuk types, kind of low event, high defensive IQ kind of players. And I think that's going to lend itself well to Travis Green's type of coaching. We have the high end talent. We've all seen it for years. So let's add a little bit of a different ingredient to that mix. And if you kind of look, I highlighted Chikrin, Brandstrom, those kind of high skill guys. Like if we can leverage some of those into a better caliber defensive type player, like to me, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We're dealing from a bit of position of strength from that area. So that's kind of where I'm landing on that.
Yeah, and I think we saw this summer teams like Florida, they picked up, Evan Rodriguez. Vancouver picked up Pius Suter. Detroit picked up guys like Christian Fisher, Daniel Sprong. I think guys like that who you can kind of put in, bottom 6 of the roster and they just flourish. Those are definitely players that the Sens should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, and I remember last summer I was a little bit like, oh, Pius Suter would be a great fit as a third, fourth liner. Like those, they need to, I mean, they're building their analytics community, but they need to start targeting those kinds of players and utilizing those little moments of leverage. Because flat out, the other ones haven't worked. That's kind of a different shifting of the mindset moving forward. So we kind of see where we're at with that, but I think Chikrin might be gone for sure. But just from what I'm seeing, and they're just kind of, they already have 2 amazing puck movers, and we have 4 right now with Sanderson and Chabot. I think they're both locked in. And those are your horses, right? And let's get some different types in there.
Honestly, like I think the Sens fans are really desperate for change. And I think your point is extremely valid in the sense that we're probably going to have to temper our expectations a little bit because this is not Pierre Dorion. This is not somebody who's going to be making rash decisions. What do you think, Benet?
Yeah, I think that definitely makes some really good points. The Sens have done a lot of name chasing over the last number of years. And when you're in the moment, it's great and it's exciting. The idea that, hey, we could go and get Matt Duchene, like that's so cool. But then when you think about it, you're like, wait a sec, this is our GM. They shouldn't necessarily have the same ideas that like the fans have. Like within reason, it's like, oh, we
Right.
need to strengthen our defense, we need to strengthen our goaltending, whatever you need to do to round out a roster. Like that makes sense. But like it almost seems like, like your armchair fan has the same ideas of how to improve the team as like the GM does, who like that's their entire job
Mhm.
and their expertise. And so I think that, we had a few years of that, and to your point, it really didn't work. The Sens just continued to fall behind and lag behind other teams, rebuilding or otherwise. So yeah, I think we need to get used to appreciating the unsexy moves, because building the team out through the draft and then making little adjustments and tweaks over time is usually how you move a roster forward. Trying to just
Yeah.
like swing for the fences every offseason is gonna sort of have mixed results. I think the
Yeah.
perfect example, one of those moves that the Sens have done that worked, was Artem Zub. I mean, who could
Absolutely.
imagine the Sens blue line without Zub in it? He, does so much of the heavy lifting on our back end. And that was a guy that we just signed right out of the KHL. We didn't give up any assets to get him. There wasn't some big long chase in like the media. That wasn't people weren't, in the Sens subreddit or on Twitter be like, oh, like we should really go after a guy like Artem Zub out of Locomotive
Yeah.
Cherist or whatever the fuck. Like, anyway, so yeah, I mean, and those moves, they're a lot lower risk.
Mhm.
And the rewards are potentially having affordable, serviceable pieces in your roster that can complement the star players that you already have. And we made a big splash for a guy like Chikrin on the other end of the spectrum of the kind of moves that you could make. Turns out he doesn't really complement this defensive core at all. He doesn't make
No.
Shabbat better. He doesn't make Sanderson better. Zub does, and he cost way less to acquire and way less to have on the roster. So it's, yeah.
And
All right.
just to circle back on the Chikrin point, he's a player from Arizona that was the #1 defenseman, and now he's the third, right?
Yeah.
And now that's him adjusting his expectations, and he kind of looks around that situation and goes, well, I'm not going to be the guy here. I never will be. So why should I resign? And a bit, like we were saying, versatility in the roster. If we have a dish and it's full of garlic, well, there's too much garlic. Let's take some out and let's put in something else, right? So just a bit of versatility through the lineup and maybe changing the look of the team. Just overall, we have too many of the same type of guys, and it's hasn't paid off, unfortunately.
Well, Devon, thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you hopping on, sharing your thoughts. Time goes fast. That was quick,
Yeah,
but
it does. Yeah.
I think you got a lot across, and that was great.
Sure.
So thank you everyone who listened to the first episode of our 2024 fan series. Really appreciate it. Devon, you've been a delight. For anyone who wants to, stay in touch with us or maybe hop on here like Devon someday, feel free to check us out on Twitter or Instagram, Discord, Reddit, wherever. Senstennial, you can find us there. So thanks, Devon, and see you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, boys.
Thanks for popping on.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dev.
Take care.
See ya.